Hey y'all, it's your girl ayaanasabre, and today I'm here with another video. If you don't already know me, now you do. And judging by the title, you already know what's gonna go down today. So let's get into it. I know many of y'all already know that I plan on going to nursing school next semester. And just recently, this summer, I actually passed my exam to get in. So I just want to give y'all a few tips and tricks on how I passed. Now, I'm gonna be looking down a lot because I wrote some notes, but I just want to make sure I go over everything so I relay all of the good tricks that I learned. So now we can get into how I studied and what I studied and all that. So I know a lot of y'all have probably seen this book going around, and I will say, yes, I did purchase it in the beginning, and I ended up finding out that only 2 sections were really helpful, and that was the math and the grammar. Throughout the book, they give little HESI hints that I found kind of helpful, and they had practice tests at the end of each section. But after I completed the whole book, read everything and all that, I just found myself kind of stuck. I mean, you can read it over and over again, but the only way to really practice for a test for me is by actually taking tests. And so once I took all of those practice tests, it was just kind of like, okay, what now? And so that leads me to the first thing I want to tell y'all about. So there's so many free online practice tests that are out there, and I will say that a few of those questions in the practice test were actually in the test. So those helped me a lot. So I did pretty much every practice test that I could find online, and I would say it helped me a lot. Got me in kind of this routine of just doing questions back to back and different stuff like that. So the next thing I want to tell y'all about is there are 2 Quizlets with the exact same question and answers that are on the test. So the first one is for anatomy and physiology, and that Quizlet actually has up to 200 terms, but some of those terms are repeated. And I will say most of those questions are in the test, and it led me to getting, I think I got like a 90 something on the anatomy portion of the test, so it really helped me a lot. And the other one was the reading and comprehension. So there was a Quizlet with reading and comprehension that had passages and the answers from questions in those passages that were on the test. And so I mean, I really highly suggest that y'all utilize those. I will leave them in the description box below, both the free online practice test and the 2 Quizlets, so y'all can look into those and study those for real, like study. Okay, so that's it for the anatomy and physiology and reading comprehension. Next, the grammar section. So mainly in the grammar section, they asked a lot of, can you identify the grammatically correct sentence out of these 4? There are a lot of those. There are a lot of, like fill in the words. But I will say there were a few things that you need to know that were actually in that book. You need to know who versus whom. You need to know farther versus further. You need to know lie versus lay, fewer versus less, effect versus effect, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Y'all need to know all of those because there's some questions where it asks you to use those, but you had to use it correctly. So you need to know when to use effect or when to use effect or farther or further, and what those mean to help you complete the sentence. So next is the math section. The math section, I can honestly say that was my lowest scoring section, mainly because I thought I was just so pressed for time that when I couldn't get the answer like within the first few minutes, I would just like click something and then hit next. Ended up getting an 80% on that section. And so, but I will say a lot of this stuff was on there live. So there's basic, and I do mean basic addition and subtraction. There's basic adding and subtracting fractions. A lot of ratios. I would say probably 60% of the test was ratios. And then you need to know military time, Roman numerals. They had on there to know Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit, although I didn't get a question with that at all. So I mean, but just learn just in case. It's honestly not that hard. And the last thing you need to know is both English and metric conversions. Now for this part, in the beginning, I started to just do Quizlets and just learn, oh, so a mile is 1,760 yards, you know, just going just basic like that. And that actually you do need to memorize, but there are some tricks so you don't have to memorize all of them. So I know y'all probably heard of King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, and that is a trick that's definitely going to help you on the test. I'll leave a video in the description box that'll further explain that. And then another trick that really helped was this, I don't even know what to call it, it's called King Gallon. That was the video I used, and it's basically a little chart to show you gallons to quarts to pints to cups and ounces, and it really helped me with the test with a lot of the questions. So I'll leave that in the description box below as well. Okay y'all, so now we can start talking about my study habits a little bit. So it took me, I studied for about like a month, maybe a little over a month for the test, and it was really a lot longer than I should have. I was just kind of procrastinating because I was just studying all by myself, and I just wanted to be sure that I would pass on my first try. So in the beginning, I studied, I would say like a few hours a day, and then like as it got closer and closer to the day, I studied more and more and more. But I would say as I was studying, I really paid attention to what were my strengths and my weaknesses. So let's say I'll do, I don't know, like a practice test, and I noticed that my reading comprehension score was kind of low. So the next day I'll focus on only reading comprehension, and then like less of anatomy or something else. And so just make sure y'all really pay attention to yourself so you know what you're really good at and what you're not so good at, and to focus on that a little bit more. So because I studied for so long, I didn't exactly make a schedule. I just kind of went as I went along. And so I will say, if you're studying it, especially like you're taking it within a week or 2 weeks, make sure you make a schedule for yourself. So make sure you have a set, section you want to focus on each day. Like set out a few hours, maybe a couple hours, and just make sure you designate that time to studying only. Just make sure that you're really focused on studying so you can get a good grade. So that's everything I have for y'all. I'm really happy you stayed to the end of this video. I hope you learned a few tips and tricks to help you study. If you have any questions, do not be hesitant to comment down below. I'll be more than happy to help. If you're new to my channel, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, do all of that. I've got a lot of new videos coming. And real quick, I want to say thank you to anyone that watched my last video. And if you haven't, go ahead and watch that. I'm going to have it right up here next to me somewhere, so you can go ahead and click on it. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I'll see you in my next video.